Thank you, Donald, and good evening, everybody. Once again, a Commons furore in which John Bercow is at the centre, and those that listen to this show will know I have been very critical of the Speaker in the past. Why, you may ask? Well, if you go to the Parliament's website, you will see that the Speaker is the chief officer and highest authority of the House of Commons and must remain impartial at all times. OK? It's quite straightforward, isn't it? Now, this role has evolved over the years. It first really began in its modern form in 1377. During the Middle Ages, a total of 7 speakers were actually beheaded for doing their job, which is why, traditionally, the Speaker is somebody who is dragged reluctantly to the Speaker's chair, although when John Bercow got it in 2009, he rather sprinted up there, because he rather fancied himself for this position, said he would only serve for a maximum of 9 years. That's up now. Goodness knows how long he wants to go on for. But there have been some amazing speakers over the years that have shown neutrality in the most testing and difficult of circumstances. Think about this. When Charles I himself walked into the House of Commons on the 4th of January 1642 to arrest 5 MPs for treason, Speaker William Lentil refused to reveal where they were. Hitherto seen as a rather timorous chap, the books tell us, this was his moment. He fell to his knees and told the king, "May it please your majesty, I have neither eyes to see nor tongue to speak in this place, but as the house is pleased to direct me, whose servant I am here." And the king was pretty humiliated and turned around and left, and Lentil didn't get beheaded. But they are the lengths to which great speakers have gone to maintain their independence and neutrality. So let's have a listen to what happened in the House of Commons today, and I want you to tell me whether you think this Speaker is acting in a true, impartial manner. The whole thing started today with a question that was asked by David Evernett, who's a Conservative MP for Bexley Heath and Crayford.
Can my right honourable friend confirm that the upcoming Commonwealth Summit is an opportune moment for us to demonstrate the strength and diversity of this unique family of nations?
Secretary.
I passionately agree. It is the most astonishing. It is the most. Say no, says the Labour front bench. That's their attitude. That's their attitude. Isn't that extraordinary? Isn't that extraordinary? This is an institution. Say no, says the noble and learned lady, the Baroness, whatever it is. I can't remember what it is. Nugent. What an extraordinary thing. This is an institution that encompasses 2.4 billion people, some of the fastest growing economies in the world, and we have an unrivaled opportunity to embrace them here in London, and we're going to do it.
Order. I don't want to be unkind or discourteous to the Foreign Secretary, but I say on advice as the clerks swivel round to me, 2 things. First of all, we don't name call in this chamber. And secondly, I'm dealing with the matter. The right honourable gentleman will listen and benefit from listening.
Oh, please.
Secondly, we do not address people by the titles of their spouses. The Shadow Foreign Secretary has a name, and it's not Lady something. We know what her name is, and it is inappropriate and frankly sexist to speak in those terms.
Gosh.
And I'm not having it in this chamber. That is the end of the matter. No matter how senior a member, that parlance is not legitimate, it will not be allowed, and it will be called out on it, and I require no chuntering representatory position from any occupant of the Treasury bench. I've said what the position is, and believe me, that is the end of the matter. I hope I've made the position extremely clear to people who are not well informed about such matters.
Oh dear, oh dear. It's painful. I mean, let's discuss in a minute whether or not what Boris did was sexist or not. But who does this person think he is? I mean, is this the Messiah who's come back to correct us all and put us on the right path? It is arrogant, it is stuck up, it is full of virtue signalling, and more importantly, he again and again and again is incapable of being impartial. He clearly takes the other side of the argument. Just a few weeks ago, I reported on this show a car sticker that was in the front of his Range Rover, which said a nasty word about Brexit. He's not impartial. My view is that it is time for him to be removed. Do you know, in a year and 2 days, we're going to get back the independence of our nation, and with it the sovereignty of people of this country, and they'll be represented in Parliament. Surely a sovereign Parliament back in charge of our nation's affairs deserves better than this. That's my view. If you agree with me and think the time has come to boot Bercow, then call me on 0345 6060 973, or perhaps you think, no, actually, he's been a good speaker, he defends the rights of backbenchers, and he is fully entitled to dress down Boris for making such an off-the-cuff remark, in which case text to 84850, or maybe you think we should be considering somebody else to be Speaker, whether it's a Harman or a Rees-Mogg. Let me know your ideas by tweeting using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. And, of course, as ever, you can watch the show here on Facebook, and you can comment there too. So I think this guy has shown, ever since 2009, that actually he is very much biased towards the Labour Party. And what an extraordinary journey John Bercow has been on. You know, when you think that in his student days, you know, he was part of the Tory right. He was part of the Federation of Conservative Students, an organisation that was considered to be so right-wing that Norman Tebbit closed it down. He was a member of the Monday Club, and that's an organisation that in modern parlance would be considered to be a far-right organisation, and he's now been on this truly remarkable journey. I do not think that Bercow is capable of being impartial. I believe it's time for him to be removed. I want to know what you think. You can call me on 0345 6060 973. Is it time to boot Bercow? And, interestingly, do you think that Boris Johnson acted in a sexist way? Were his comments sexist or not? Now, this is not the first time. This is not the first time that Bercow clearly, in my opinion, has acted in a way that shows he lacks neutrality. Because shortly after Donald Trump became President of the USA, we heard his view on that. I'm going to play that to you in a minute, but firstly, I'll go to Thomas in Worthing. Thomas, good evening.
Good evening.
So...
yeah. It's laughable, isn't it? It really is. So... a couple of years ago, you have Ben Bradshaw and David Cameron in Parliament mocking your name as sounding foreign.
That's right.
No intervention from the Speaker on that occasion.
No.
You have January this year, on the 31st, Emily Thornberry mocking Conservative and DUP MPs, both male and female, as cavemen. And... No intervention at all from the Speaker on that occasion either.
I mean, one of the first things, Thomas, that he said today was, we do not do name-calling in this House. Really? I thought they've been doing it for about 800 years. You know, when Vince Cable famously said of Gordon Brown when he was Prime Minister that he'd gone in the space of a month from Stalin to Mr. Bean, I thought it was really, really funny and really good. But it was name-calling, wasn't it?
It was, and I tell you what I find startling and awfully coincidental about this whole issue. I mean, firstly, obviously, you've got the issues surrounding John Bercow, the accusations made about him, etc. You also have the Labour Party anti-Semitism scandal, which this has provided a really good cover for, hasn't it? Nobody's talking about it now. I mean, I've been covering this on social networking sites, and in the something like 4 hours since this was picked up and discussed online, more people have talked about Boris Johnson in the context of being sexist than Jeremy Corbyn and the anti-Semitism that's happening in the Labour Party over the last 48 hours.
That's probably
What's
true.
going on?
That is probably true. Now, you know, Boris, of course, let's remember, did subsequently apologised, and he said, any inadvertent sexism or discourtesy that you may have deemed me to be guilty of, I heartily tender my apologies for, and to the Right Honourable Lady, if she was offended, I meant no harm. I apologise unreservedly to her if I have offended the feelings of the Right Honourable Lady. So Boris felt that he had to apologise for what he'd done. Do you think Boris behaved in a sexist manner?
I don't think he behaved in a sexist manner. I think he was inappropriate. It was a very unprofessional and poor choice of words. But I again ask, I mean, there's been so many instances in the last 24 months where people have said, I mean, blatantly outrageous things, made outrageous accusations involving Russia, for instance, that have absolutely no basis in any proven reality. And there's no questioning from the Speaker. And then on this occasion, following such accusations, he jumps forward and promptly makes a kind of, heroic speech.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he sounds like Sir John Gielgud, doesn't he? I mean, I don't know who he thinks he is, this bloke. I mean, is he an impartial speaker, Thomas?
No, I don't think he is. I mean,
is it time they got someone better?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know who that would be, though, to be honest.
Well, we'll debate that over the course of the next hour. Thomas from Worthing, thank you for your call. Breaking news: Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children has confirmed that it will retain a £530,000 donation from the President's Club, overturning the previous decision to return it. I'm very pleased to see a real outbreak of proper common sense supported by a vast majority of the population. You're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
Schizophrenic William Jaggs was branded a grave and immediate risk when sent to a mental hospital just over 10 years ago for the fatal stabbing of Lucy Braham, who was 25. The 34-year-old is now regularly allowed out for day trips to shop for women's clothes at Primark and groceries at Sainsbury's. So as recently as 2007, Mr. Justice Bean told him, "You should realise that it may never be safe to release you." Would you want him living next door to you or your children or grandchildren? I'm damn certain you wouldn't.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With The Times. Be not just informed, but well informed.
Are estate agents revolting? At eMove we are really revolting. We're revolting and revolutionising to create an easier and fairer way to sell your home. We're calling it an e-movement, combining the benefits and savings of online with real dedicated property experts at every step of your sale. Revolt with us. Join the e-movement. Visit emove.co.uk. Rated the UK's #1 hybrid estate agent on all agents.
Hi, I'm Michael Owen and I know what it's like to be injured. If you've been injured and it's not your fault, you need to speak to Gowing Law. Text WIN to 80800 and Gowing Law will do the rest.
Thanks, Michael. If you've been injured on the road or at work, Gowing Law can tell you instantly what you might be owed. Find out right now and text WIN to 80800. You could be owed thousands.
So win with Gowing. Text WIN to 80800.
At the third stroke, the time sponsored by Cunard will be any time you like. Time to stop. Time to relax. Time to indulge. Time to love. Showtime. Time for a voyage with Cunard.
Universal Credit is opening up work for thousands of people across the country. It provides support for people out of work or who start on a low income and comes with your own work coach to provide help and advice. Universal Credit can top up your wages and payments won't stop just because you work more than 16 hours. So it can open up lots more job opportunities and makes temporary or part-time work a great place to start. Universal Credit. Opening up work. Find out more at gov.uk/openingupwork.
Great. Another ad. When's the music back on? Good news is you might not need to listen to this, because we're about to talk funerals. So if you want to turn down the volume, that's fine by us. If you do need to plan a funeral, we're sorry to hear that. And we want you to know we're here, like we have been for generations, at the heart of your community, available all day, every day, to do right by them, right by your family, and right by you. Co-op Funeral Care.
£1 could buy you a mouthful of lager, or about 14.5 chips. Or £1 could buy you a Thunderball ticket for a chance to win £500,000. Bit of a no-brainer, really. Thunderball, only from the National Lottery. For just £1, you could win £500,000. Why not play this Tuesday? Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
This is LBC, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
Is it time to boot Bercow? And whilst he was there attacking Boris Johnson and virtue signalling and taking the high moral ground and taking the Foreign Secretary down a peg or two, I'm asking you, do you think that what Boris said was sexist? But far more importantly, do you agree with me that this Speaker of the House of Commons finds it virtually impossible to be impartial? Now, all of this, it's important to say, is going on against a background where John Bercow has been accused by a former member of staff of bullying. Now, to be clear, Bercow strongly rejects all the allegations against him, and a spokesperson for the House of Commons Commission said the Commission agreed that an inquiry should be initiated immediately and tasked its non-executive members, who are not parliamentarians, with appointing an independent expert to lead the inquiry and with developing terms of reference in collaboration with that person. So there is an inquiry into John Bercow and whether he's guilty of bullying. So there is some of that there in the background. I get on Facebook, Boris was possibly a bit rude, but definitely not sexist. Bercow was playing to the gallery to help him get out of the hole he's in. New Speaker, long overdue, says Andy. Hi Nigel, I would sure back a call to boot Bercow. He's my local MP and completely useless to me due to the fact he has to remain impartial. Well, actually, I think you'll find, whoever sent that, that when he gets re-elected each time, he says because he's Speaker, actually, in many ways, he's got even more influence. Jacob Rees-Mogg, I knew this would start before long. Jacob Rees-Mogg would be a great replacement for Bercow, but I'd prefer Jacob to be Prime Minister. Either way, Bercow needs the boot, says Kathy. Hassan is a first-time caller from Croydon. Good evening, Hassan.
Hi, Nigel. What I wanted to say was that Boris Johnson was not rude, but then Bercow, he was just defending a lady. How would you feel if I say, sir, whatever your name is? Obviously, it does sound rude. So, although he wasn't sexist, he was rude, and it was Bercow's job to keep the order in the house, and that's what he was doing.
Okay, Hassan. Hassan, just to get the facts of this so that everybody's completely clear, Emily Thornberry is married to High Court Judge Sir Christopher Nugee. So she could use her married name, Lady Nugee, if she chose, but she chooses to go by her maiden name, as we call it, or used to call it, of Emily Thornberry. So that's the situation.
Yes, still, Boris Johnson forgot the name, and he used the title, and Bercow, rightfully, I think, corrected him that he should not use her, call her by the title, and he was just maintaining the order in the house, rather than just. So I don't think this is the reason just to boot Bercow out because of that. Yeah, the other things. Yes,
I mean, Hassan, just to finish off on that. Look, he forgot what her name was, but hey, that's Boris. Boris forgets all sorts of things, all of that. I mean, isn't it reasonable, Hassan, isn't it reasonable to tease a front bencher from a left-wing Labour Party about the fact that she's got a title such as Lady?
Well, teasing is another thing, but we are talking about the Houses of Parliament.
All right, so you thought, Hassan, with this he went over the line, yeah?
I think I think Bercow did not, but Boris Johnson did. Okay. Just for example, I say, sir, whatever your name is, I don't remember it. But my point is this: that is a bit rude. It's not sexist. I won't say it is sexist.
No.
But it is rude.
OK, Hassan, no, thank you very much for your point of view. Thank you, Hassan. They're a first-time caller from Croydon. And by the way, I think Boris is really good at forgetting all sorts of people's names. I remember once I was with quite a well-known MP, and Boris came up and chatted to us, and he completely had forgotten who the other chap was, despite the fact they'd sat together in Parliament for years. So I think this is a bit of what Boris is like. I don't think he meant to be offensive. I think he thought he was being funny. He thought he was teasing. I don't believe it was outright sexism. But hey, tell me I've got this wrong. Tell me Bercow is with the modern mood on this stuff. You can do so by calling me on 0345 6060 973. Daniel is a first-time caller, another first-time caller to the show from Hayes. Good evening, Daniel.
Good evening, Nigel. I believe your friend, foreign minister, you need to behave. I think she's not someone or something, or he forgot her name. He is rude, he's sexist. I think John Bercow, he was doing his job, and he done it properly. And he made him to be aware, whatever his positions, he has to behave. He has to behave like anybody else.
Well, Boris and behaving, Daniel, I mean, they're not two words that one automatically puts together, of course, because he's always kind of done his own thing. But, all right, Daniel, you take the view, again, you know, another caller that takes the view that Boris had stepped over the line. I don't particularly agree with that, but that's your point of view. And, all right, so John Bercow was doing his job. If he's doing his job, Daniel, why did he have to grandstand and come across with such total pomposity?
Because he said someone, as if he doesn't really sort of remember her name. It's just he was over the top. It's just...
No, but the point I'm making, Daniel, Bercow could have said, as Speaker of the House, my view, Mr. Johnson, is you've gone a bit over the top here. That was an unnecessary comment. Some may have thought to be sexist, and you should apologise. And sat down. Instead, we got this grandiose speech. I mean, you know, I thought he was at the Old Vic when he was delivering it. I mean, it was grandstanding on a most extraordinary scale, Daniel.
Maybe I slightly agree with you. He probably was over the top. However, he was trying to make the point. He doesn't want Johnson to think, because of his position, he can abuse others. And he's trying to remind him. I think that is the case. However, I probably agree with you. Probably he is over the top.
Yeah, I mean, Bercow is very good, isn't he? Grandstanding on the most extraordinary scale. But the fundamental point, Daniel, I mean, do you think, given this and other incidences, do you think that Bercow is a neutral speaker?
Well, I don't know on that, but from what I've heard today, he's trying to make a big point to remind Johnson you cannot, abuse your position.
All right, no, fair dues. No, Daniel, fine. Well, let's listen to John Bercow in full flight on the issue of President Trump of America.
I must say to the honourable gentleman, to all who signed his early day motion and to others with strong views about this matter on either side of the argument, that before the imposition of the migrant ban, I would myself have been strongly opposed to an address by President Trump in Westminster Hall. After the imposition of the migrant ban by President Trump, I am even more strongly opposed to an address by President Trump in Westminster Hall. So far as the Royal Gallery is concerned, and again I operate on advice, I do not perhaps have as strong a say in that matter. It is in a different part of the building, although customarily an invitation to a visiting leader to deliver an address there would be issued in the names of the two speakers. I would not wish to issue an invitation to President Trump to speak in the Royal Gallery. And I conclude by saying to the honourable gentleman this: we value our relationship with the United States. If a state visit takes place, that is way beyond and above the pay grade of the Speaker. However, as far as this place is concerned, I feel very strongly that our opposition to racism and to sexism and our support for equality before the law and an independent judiciary are hugely important considerations in the House of Commons.
Oh dear, how is that impartiality? He's commenting on one of the main election pledges that Donald Trump made, namely that he would keep in place Obama's tight controls on the numbers that could come into America from 7 Middle Eastern, predominantly Muslim population countries. I never once heard Bercow attacking Obama for putting that policy in the first place. But here he is. So the most powerful man in the world who wants to be our ally is banned from the Palace of Westminster because of bolshy little Bercow. He is not impartial, and he is degrading, in my opinion, this extraordinary, great office of state. Something that is meant to be a symbol that is seen all around the world, part of our continuity, part of our history. And I think he's totally abused the position. I believe firmly that it's time Bercow got the boot. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It is now 7:30 and time for the news with Thomas Watts.
Reports found poor communication and procedures kept firefighters out of the loop following the Manchester Arena attack. The fire service took 2 hours to attend the scene of the explosion, which killed 22 people last May. Great Ormond Street Hospital has confirmed it will keep a £500,000 donation from the President's Club. It's overturning the decision to return the money after allegations of inappropriate behaviour at the President's Club men-only fundraising dinner. Australia's cricket captain, vice-captain and opening batsman have all been sent home from South Africa over the ball tampering scandal. Cricket Australia insists only Steve Smith, David Warner and Cameron Bancroft were aware of the plan to use tape and dirt to change the condition of the ball. LBC weather, clear spells for most tonight, showers in parts of northern England and Scotland, then further heavy rain pushing into the south, a low of 2 degrees.
LBC travel, there are queues on the A40 for around an hour westbound between the northern roundabout in White City and the Target roundabout in Northolt. The outside lane has been closed for emergency repairs. On the M25 it's slow clockwise between junction 13 for Staines and 16 for the M40 after an accident. And in Kilburn the high road is blocked in both directions between Wilston Lane and Victoria Road because of a building fire. Burdett Road in Mile End is closed in both directions around St Paul's Way because of a police investigation, and the A2 is closed eastbound near the Bricklayers Arms flyover because of an accident. LBC Travel, I'm Katie Tyler.
This is LBC.
He's always been a quiet kid.
But now he doesn't interact with other children at all.
Gets scared when you talk to him.
Very insecure. And there's always angry shouting from the house.
We all have a role to play in keeping children safe. If you think a child may be at risk, report it to your local council who can provide support. Child abuse. If you think it, report it. Find out how at gov.uk/tackle-child-abuse.
At PlusNet, we say let's hear it for small businesses, the micros that think mega, run by work all day, worry all night warriors. No home life, no love life, no lunch hours or happy hours, only long hours. Our super fast business broadband is for you. Reliable, affordable, with support anytime you need it. Christmas Day, New Year's Day, May Day, May night, whenever, because you guys, you're the future. You make us proud, and you know what? Here at PlusNet, we'll do you proud.
Team England, powered by a nation. N-Power, proud sponsors of Commonwealth Games England and their official anthem. Search N-Power Team England to hear the track now.
Days and weeks can fly by, but if you're worried it's cancer, time can slow down and almost stop. That's why, with Bupa Health Insurance, you can call us about any symptom of cancer without seeing your GP first. Depending on your cover and your symptoms, we could even refer you to a consultant there and then. Bupa Health Insurance. For living. To find out more, search Bupa. Direct access services may not be available for some underwriting methods, and you may need to provide evidence that conditions are not pre-existing.
Divorce. It affects every part of your life. You, your family, your home, your finances. And if you're a man facing divorce, perhaps even one you don't want, the situation becomes even more complicated. It's at times like these that you need a professional you can trust. Cordell & Cordell is dedicated to helping men in matters relating to divorce. Call now on 0330 60 60 161 or visit cordell.co.uk, office in central London. A partner men can count on.
Don't be taken for granted. Come get some big love at Big Motoring World. You'll love how big our choice is. Up to 2,000 beautiful used BMWs, Audis, Mercedes, and VWs. Already in waiting just for you. Big Motoring World, minutes from the M25. See bigmotoringworld.co.uk. Now sing it. Big, big, big Motoring World.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Well, we're discussing whether we should boot Bercow, whether he has breached impartiality. I played you before the break his comments on Donald Trump and Donald Trump's manifesto, which John Bercow didn't like, and therefore he's to be banned from the Palace of Westminster. And frankly, I thought his attack on Boris Johnson today was completely and utterly over the top. And I think repeatedly he appears to take Labour's side in what's going on in the House of Commons. That is my view, but you can tell me I've got this completely twisted round my neck by calling 0345 6060 973. But before we go back to that, this morning on the James O'Brien Show on LBC, Lord Patten was a guest here in the studio. Lord Patten, former Conservative Member of Parliament, of course former Governor of Hong Kong. He was there at the big handover, and of course after that European Commissioner and a firm supporter of the European project. And he said today that Leavers will do anything to ensure Brexit.
If you make the sort of remarks I've made about the nonsense that's talked on the trade deals which are waiting us out there if only we get out of the customs union, if you point out the nonsense which is talked about being able to have virtual borders, if you take to pieces the arguments that we're somehow going to take back control if we're outside the European Union, you're denounced by one or two of our tabloid newspapers and one or two others as being unpatriotic, as being a traitor, as being an enemy of the people. It's all awful hogwash, and it's going to make us, at the end of the day, I mean, you know, there won't be plagues of locusts, the sun will still come up in the mornings, but at the end of the day, we will be less well off and less influential as a country. And I think young people know that very well. I mean, the Brexiteers, having recognised that people wouldn't go along with the idea of a hard Brexit with an over-the-cliff, onto-the-rocks Brexit, they're now prepared to settle for anything. So it's not a question of no deal is better than a bad deal. The question is a bad deal is better than still having the possibility with no deal of being inside the European Union. So they're prepared to put lipstick on a pig if it's necessary.
I disagree with absolutely every single thing that Lord Patten just said there. But here's the interesting bit of the story for you. So, former European commissioners get incredibly generous pensions from the European Union, but they are conditional pensions, and they only to continue to receive the pensions provided they uphold the original promise they made to the European Union when they became a commissioner in the first place, to uphold the treaties and the values of the European Union project. So if he was to come out as a Eurosceptic, they would probably stop his pension. And I hope in future, when Lord Patten stands up and speaks in this way in the House of Lords, he declares an interest before he does so. Well, back to the lower house and back to Bercow. It's time Bercow went. I'm sick of his Napoleon complex. He was definitely helping the opposition to take the headlines away from them. As for Emily Thornberry being offended, this woman could stop attack in its tracks with just one look. I'm a Conservative, but I would prefer somebody else as Speaker, says Margaret in Bolton. Look, Emily Thornberry can look after herself. Of that there is absolutely no doubt at all, but the Speaker deemed that it was sexist. What does Robin from Whitehaven in Cumbria make of today's exchanges? Good evening.
Hello, Nigel. I think you're wrong on the account of Donald Trump and also on the account of Boris Johnson.
All right, well, we're not debating Donald Trump tonight
you mentioned
directly.
You mentioned that Bercow was wrong to voice his opinion.
Oh, totally.
No, well, if there's an invite issued and John Bercow, the two speakers of the House, supposedly have to have the name on it, and he doesn't want his name on it, he has every right to say he doesn't want it.
Because of policy, Robin.
Well, it doesn't matter whether it's policy or not. If his name's got to be on it, he has every right to say his name shouldn't be on it. You wouldn't like your name put to something that you completely disagree with, Nigel. No one would.
But he gave us. But this isn't a personal thing. He was very explicit there in saying that he disagreed with Trump's immigration policy, upon which he was elected, and which, by the way, Obama started before him. And he then went on, in a sort of highfalutin way, to basically say that the American president was sexist and racist. I mean, that is breaching any rules, surely, Robin, of impartiality.
Well, if he doesn't want his name put to any invite, he's perfectly entitled to not have it. And as for the...
Right, go on.
As for the Boris Johnson with Emily Thornberry, we've had a lot of media coverage of women in Parliament and the 100 years since the vote. So I think the way that John Bercow dealt with it was absolutely bang on the money, perfect. He slapped Boris down for what Boris's remarks were, which I don't know whether they were intended to be offensive or disrespectful, but I thought John Bercow dealt with it perfectly, and that will be an example and a warning to anyone else who wants to behave in that manner.
Yeah, I mean, let's get humour out of the Commons completely, Robin, shall we?
Well, it depends on humour. You've got to... I think Boris overstepped the mark, personally, I really do.
Do you, Robin, I had a caller earlier on, I wonder whether you would agree with this, who took a similar point of view to you, and what he was upset about was the fact that Boris didn't appear to know her, or pretended, I was told, not to know her name.
Well, only Boris will know whether he did or didn't know her name.
Well, actually, knowing Boris, he probably still won't know the answer to that, but...
Well, do you think Boris is the right person to be the Foreign Secretary if he can't remember someone who sits opposite him every week?
Well, he wasn't... Well, I think he remembered her working name, or maiden name, choose whichever you wish, of Emily Thornberry. He clearly forgot that she was by married name, if she chose to use it, Lady Nugent. Robin, do you think Johnson behaved in a sexist manner today?
I don't know whether it was sexist. I don't think it was sexist.
All right, so was the Speaker's grandstanding, frankly, over the top?
I don't think it was over the top, because I think he had to make an example of someone who behaves in that manner.
All right, but it was a real sort of humiliating dressing down rather than a mild ticking off, wasn't it?
Well, I think it was deserved.
All right, no, Robin, listen, fine, you've made your point. I don't really agree with that. I think people should have fun, but hey, lots of you agree with Robin. Hold on, Nige, you just said, oh, that's Boris being Boris. So what's the issue with the Speaker doing the same thing? Andy. Boris is a political figure. He is elected for the Conservative Party. He is the Foreign Secretary. He is political. He is biased. He has opinions. That's what he's supposed to do. John Bercow is holding this great office of state that has been there since 1377, and which, on Parliament's own website, tells us they have to be neutral. Goodness me, Speaker Lenzel during the Civil War even managed to be neutral in the face of the King, who could have cut his head off, but he did it because that's the job of being Speaker. And Bercow is not neutral on Trump, frankly on Brexit, frankly on the Conservative front bench, and many, many other things. That's what I think about it, Andy. I'm going to ask Michael in Mansfield what he thinks. Michael, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Nigel. Yeah. Can I just say, just before I jump into that, I thought what you were saying earlier about Lord Patton was outrageous, really. I thought Lord Patton spoke with intelligence, with dignity, and authority this morning, and for you to say...
Well, I mean, Michael...
Hang on, let me finish. Hang on, let me finish. You're trying to impugn that he was just saying that because he was getting his pension from it, and you, yourself, who didn't even turn up to, was it 1 out of 42 meetings on the fisheries, you've barely done your job as an MEP, and you quickly said, but you bloody well will take your pension.
Well, Michael, I very much doubt... I tell you what, Michael, unlike Lord Patton, it's very unlikely. It's very unlikely I'll get it. But did you know, Michael, had you ever heard... anybody, and you may hear Lord Mandelson or Lord Kinnock or any of our former commissioners, had you ever heard before tonight's show the fact that former commissioners' pensions are conditional? Had that fact ever been given to you?
The fact I'd heard that you never did your job as an MEP...
Oh, Michael, please, do you know something? I have... as a British MEP, travelled more, spoken at more meetings, led a parliamentary group for longer than any other British MEP. So I'm not interested in listening to that nonsense and that spin. I've worked damned hard at it for 20 years at a big cost in many ways. Now, forget me. Let's talk about John Bercow.
Okay, John Bercow, very, very good speaker, and he was absolutely right and utterly impartial. As your previous caller just said, so realistically, Boris Johnson can't remember his shadow's name.
Yes, that sounds just like Boris. Yes.
Well, in which case he's incompetent and shouldn't be doing the job, should he?
Well, you may have an argument there, Michael. Let's just cut to the quick of this. Do you think that Bercow was right to call Boris sexist for what he said and did?
Absolutely. Johnson was patronising and arrogant, as per form.
And do you think in return...
put in his spot.
Do you think in return Bercow was also patronising and arrogant?
No, I think he was authoritative, and I think he was absolutely right to carry on, because clearly what you couldn't see in the camera, though, you could see the implicit that Johnson wasn't listening to a word he was saying, and he was basically told, shut up, listen to what I'm saying, because I'm speaking to you, and you'll benefit from hearing this. I thought it was absolutely the right point.
Michael, we disagree on virtually everything, but hey, that's LBC, and you're free to come on and say it. You're listening to Nigel Farage here on LBC, and it's now 7:45.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
A new report says UK employers are worried about a lack of EU workers after Brexit, and that British workers are not keen enough. Have these companies got it right?
Clive Bull on LBC.
It could be nothing.
But I notice she's been flinching when someone comes near her.
And the other day I saw...
these bruises on her arms.
I know kids get knocks and scrapes.
But when I asked her about it...
she just kept changing her mind about what happened.
We all have a role to play in keeping children safe. If you think a child may be at risk, report it to your local council who can provide support. Child abuse. If you think it, report it. Find out how at gov.uk/tackle child abuse.
Selling your business doesn't have to be as stressful as running it. Break free. Sell the Hilton Smythe way. Visit thehsway.co.uk.
£1 could buy you a couple of minutes at the hairdresser's, or a handful of cinema popcorn, or £1 could buy you a Thunderball ticket for a chance to win £500,000. Bit of a no-brainer, really. Thunderball, only from the National Lottery. For just £1, you could win £500,000. Why not play this Tuesday? Rules and procedures apply. Players must be 16 or over.
I trust your meal was enjoyable, madam?
Yes, lovely.
Wonderful. Your bill.
Thanks for it. Oh.
Nothing can ruin your day quite like a large and unexpected service charge. That's why Mini Service has totally transparent pricing. Our expert Mini technicians at participating Mini centres use genuine Mini parts, which come with a 2-year warranty, and the price you're quoted for servicing is inclusive of, well, everything. Service costs include parts, labour and lubricants. T's and C's apply. Search Mini Service to find out more. Mini. Who's in?
With Clearabee, getting rid of rubbish is quick, easy and affordable.
Clear rubbish easily.
From fitting taps to fixing fuse boxes, there's a local hero for that. And from plastering walls to painting windows, there's a local hero for that. It's easy to book a trusted tradesperson at localheroes.com. Plus, all work comes with a 12-month British Gas guarantee. Join the thousands across the UK who've already used a local hero. Search Local Heroes.
Finally, it's spring. The days are getting longer. Time to gather friends and fire up the barbecue.
Take the guesswork out of barbecuing this year with the Weber iGrill. The iGrill thermometer connects to an app on your phone. Simply tell it what you're cooking, how you'd like it cooked, and the iGrill will tell you when your food is ready. Now you can claim an iGrill 3 for free when you buy a Weber Genesis 2 gas barbecue. Offer valid until the 15th of April. Participating stores, conditions apply. Visit Weber.com for more information.
Whatever you hope to achieve in business, then listen to Clive Ball on LBC every Monday evening from 9 for the Business Hour with BT, where you can put your questions to business experts.
Partner with other companies and organisations who are reaching out to your customers. And if you just think a little bit outside the box, then that kind of lends itself online, and then you'll have more people coming to you.
The LBC Business Hour every Monday evening from 9 with BT. Flexible business solutions that keep you connected.
The Nigel Farage Show on LBC.
Well, Easter is just a few days away, and of course one of the traditional dishes that is served is lamb. And very interestingly, Morrison's, who claim to sell more lamb, or certainly in 2017 sold more Easter lamb than any other business in the country, so they say, have now said that all of the lamb they sell this Easter will be British, and they're doing this after listening to their customers. In previous years, a third of what they'd sold had come from overseas. But more than that, they've decided that each of its joints will have a blue passport on it in order to make the origin clear. The grocer's passport design, complete with its own crown and crest, is inspired by the iconic British blue passport first produced in 1921. I wonder whether Brexit is actually going to make us start buying British more in a bigger way. I rather think it might. But you know what? We'll debate that another time. For now, we're talking about Bercow. We're asking whether he should stay as Speaker of the House of Commons, or whether, as I think, he's shown himself, frankly, just to be unable to be impartial. How the heck can addressing a lady by her husband's name be sexist? The Speaker certainly likes his own voice. I wouldn't have apologised, Graham, nor would I. If the Speaker is to be impartial and non-partisan, why did Bercow reveal he voted Remain? Quite. I don't know to what extent this influences the dynamics of the Commons, but he seems to like the sound of his own voice, says Paul in Lancashire. All of this insistence that Boris Johnson forgot Emily Thornberry's name is so disingenuous. Nigel Farage knows perfectly well that MPs never address each other or refer to each other by their names. Johnson should have referred to Emily Thornberry as the Shadow Foreign Secretary or the Honourable Member for South Islington. And whoever sent that, you are absolutely quite right. That is how MPs are supposed to address each other, but they don't always. And Boris did it all in a very Boris way. I think he thought it was all a big joke. But was it really sexist, and did it need addressing down on the level that he got? That's really what I'm asking. I'm going to ask Nick in King's Lynn that very question. Good evening, Nick.
Good evening, Nigel. Well, I think you've got to remember that John Bercow is a staunch Conservative Member of Parliament. He was elected by one of the most staunch Tory constituencies in Buckingham, and he got about a 30,000 majority at the last election. Now, if the House of Commons actually thought he was being in part biased towards the Labour Party, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, of course he's not being biased towards the Labour Party, then surely they're grown up enough to make their mark or to actually bring that to his attention.
Well, he was voted in, Nick. He was voted in, Nick, by Labour votes, wasn't he? It was overwhelmingly the Parliamentary Labour Party voting Bercow, and the Tories, some of them doing so quite reluctantly. And he has, Nick, been on this remarkable right-to-left political journey, hasn't he?
Well, yeah, you see, but if anything, I think it's more or less the Parliamentary Labour Party in the muddled-up state it is at the moment. It's showing more bent towards the Conservative Party more than anything. But I think what's really the issue here is what is this constitutional role of the Speaker? How can a Member of Parliament be neutral on anything, whether it's Speaker or not? I always think the role of a Speaker should be the role of a civil servant.
Nick, hang on. Judges have their own opinions in private. Judges have their own views. Judges can vote in elections, but a judge sits on a case, and they use his or her knowledge and brains to judge a case. And the Speaker is asked to leave behind his or her political opinions, but to run the House in a neutral way that is a credit to the nation. And I'm arguing, Nick, that if you listen to the Trump clip or the dressing down that Boris got today, or the car sticker he had in his window, that this guy is not neutral and lets the world know it.
Well, the House of Commons are grown up enough to actually react to that if they think he is, aren't they? You may think that, Nigel, but not necessarily the elected House.
You may think that. I couldn't possibly comment. Nick, I think a lot of people are worried about whether this guy is displaying neutrality. But you feel, Nick, he's been a good speaker, yeah?
I don't particularly really assess them, really. I think he's just as good as anybody else, quite frankly. But I always think if they're going to have a member of Parliament to do that job, it's rotated a lot more often than it is.
Well,
every 5 years they're elected.
Yeah. You know, generally, Nick, speakers don't serve for a long time. John Bercow was a very young speaker. He promised he'd serve a maximum of 9 years, and that time is pretty much up now. But I bet you, Nick, he's still there in 2022. Nick, I thank you very much indeed for your call. Going to go to Catherine, who's a first-time caller from Hertfordshire. Catherine, good evening.
Hi, Nigel. How are you?
I'm well. So what did you make of Boris's comments today?
Well, I thought it was pretty rude.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like particularly the fact that you indulge his behaviour, that, oh, this is just Boris. Oh, Boris does this. Boris was joking. You know, you shouldn't indulge people like this. And this is what's wrong with society, I think, is the basic fundamental principles of being a decent person. Those lines are blurred. People say what they want and do what they want. And the fact that Mr. Bercow, I don't think it was a dressing down. I think he just reminded us all of the fact of how to address people and how to be polite. I don't believe it was sexist, what Boris said at all. No, I agree with you there.
Good.
But everybody, honestly, Nigel, and liking the sound of his own voice, I think all public figures like the sound of their own voice, including yourself.
Well, that may be a very fair criticism, Catherine. However, I don't think that when I'm getting up and speaking, that I'm necessarily going for an Oscar, but I thought that the Speaker of the House of Commons today was completely over the top in the way in which he handled this.
He might have sounded a little bit arrogant, I agree, but most eloquent people who don't stammer and who have the courage of their convictions, they do come across a little bit arrogant. I've been told I sound arrogant sometimes.
I don't believe it.
Honestly,
Catherine, I think he was over the top. You and I don't agree on that particularly. But look, on the Boris thing, and you say yourself he wasn't being sexist, and I absolutely agree with that. And that was the centrepiece of Bercow's attack, and I think he was wrong. But what Boris was doing, and it may have been slightly unparliamentary, and all right, I do accept, Catherine, I excuse him because I say he's Boris and he is outside any of the norms. But isn't it reasonable that people in life, in the House of Commons, and you and I on this phone call, isn't it reasonable that people can tease each other a bit? I mean, you teased me, didn't you, in this phone call?
A little bit I did, but I know you can take it, Nigel.
Right. Well, Emily Thornberry can take it because she's a front bench spokeswoman for the Labour Party, very seasoned in politics, and I bet she wasn't that offended.
Well, you know what? I don't purport to know a lot about English politics. It really befuddles me, honestly. I'm just talking about the behaviour from one human being to another. And was she? I don't know. Was she upset about it?
I wouldn't think so from... I think she can handle herself. Catherine, where are you from?
Originally, I'm from South Africa, but I'm an American citizen, and I detest Donald Trump, but that's another story.
Well, I tell you what, wait, I know this is the first time you've ever called LBC.
Yes, but I'm nervous, my heart's pumping away.
I tell you what, it doesn't sound like it.
Now who deserves an Oscar?
It's been a delight talking to you. And when we discuss Trump, come on and ring us again. Thank you. My last caller tonight on this subject is Christine, who's calling from Wellington. Good evening, Christine.
Hello, Nigel. I think it's the first time we've spoken.
It is.
I agree with you. Boris can be a buffoon, but he wasn't being sexist.
No.
And Bercow, as far as I'm concerned, is a jumped-up little twerp with Napoleon syndrome.
Right. Well, you've got a firm view.
Get rid of him. They really should.
Well, whether he's a jumped-up little twerp is a very subjective comment. Some would agree, Christine, many wouldn't. But what I'm asking is, does he really represent this historic role of Speaker of the House of Commons in a neutral, impartial way?
No, he doesn't. Bring back Betty Boothroyd.
Bring back Betty Boothroyd, I think, actually. Do you know something? When she was Speaker, she really won, didn't she? Widespread
She was fantastic.
admiration. And I tell you what, Christine, not just in this country, because, you know, Prime Minister's Questions is the one bit of Parliament that is seen all over the world. It's something people talk about in America, Australia, wherever you go. And I think we need to have a Speaker who is there doing an independent, neutral job.
Absolutely. He's got to be impartial, and he's not.
Is it time, Christine, to boot Burko?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much indeed, and thank you everybody. Some very strong opinions on Burko and Boris. I'm not surprised. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'm back tomorrow night at 7. At 10 tonight it's Ian Collins, but up next it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you very much. Coming up later, a man who trained an army of children for terrorist attacks in London has been jailed for life. We'll have more on that story. At 9, your chance to speak to Dr. Sneh Kemker,